The following program is a fan-made review and reaction show. It is in no way affiliated with the movie trivia Schmoedown or Skybound Entertainment.
Hello and welcome to the ultimate Schmoedown Show here on the Outlaw Nation. I'm your host for this week, John Barr. I'm joined by Colin, Morris, and Bogz. Colin, how you feeling, buddy?
Feeling fantastic. Just recently finished Hamilton in a fantastic mood. Nothing can bring me down. And like these Schmoedown competitors, I am not going to throw away my shot today to host this show.
Excellent. Yes. Hamilton, great musical. Up there with the other great musical movies like Anastasia, where I can't speak to its historical accuracy, but it slaps. Bogz, what about you? What are your thoughts on movie musicals and, of course, the Schmoedown?
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen Hamilton yet. I will at some point. No, it's on Disney Plus. Favorite musicals? I know I've got a few, to be honest. I've got a few. I love a bit of Les Mis. I do love, if you ever see Miss Saigon, there's also a top one. Love that one. This is a big, everyone in my family loves that one, so it's been passed down through generations there. But yeah, Schmoedown, another big week. Want to say thanks to everyone for watching the previous episodes. We've had, at the time of this recording, over 2,000 views over the last episode, so that was awesome. I want to give a shout out as well to the former team's champion, Chance Ellison, for being the first Schmoedown competitor to kind of big us up, to tweet about the show. None of us know him, so he's done that completely off his own back. So appreciate that a lot, champ. So come on the show one time, or before your big title match and before your next Inner Geekdom match, come on the show, man. Let's talk it out. But yeah, been good, John. Thanks.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much, Chance, for listening. Thank you, of course, to everyone else who listens too. We're so very thankful that you're all willing to hang out with us and talk Schmoedown. And I want to let you know that there are actually a couple different places now that you can watch us and listen to us specifically. Obviously, you can watch us on Facebook. You can also watch us on YouTube. We got our own dedicated channel, and the link to that is going to be in the description. You can also check us out as a podcast if you're just purely audio. We are on Anchor right now at anchor.fm/TUSSpod, very specific. You can check us out on Anchor. And likewise, you can also check us out on Twitter at TUSSpod. Not only do we, tweet about, various announcements, we tweet about, polls for who we think, or who you guys think, rather, is going to win the matches. And we're going to be talking about some of those statistics as well. So there are all kinds of ways that you can get involved with us, and we'd love for you to be involved with us. And specifically, if you have any questions you want to ask us, you can actually get to us directly by emailing us at tuss@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to hear us talk more about movie musicals, right? I could go a whole hour talking about Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. I don't know about the other two. But enough about movie musicals. We got some great matches to talk about. And we also have some announcements to talk about, not just as far as where the two tournaments that we're in the middle of are heading, but also we got 8 names for the singles tournament. As of recording this, we have 8 names for who's going to be involved with that. And there are definitely some surprises in there too. Like there are a couple names where I was like, oh, them? So there's going to be a lot to talk about there. But before we get into all that, let's talk about the actual matches that we got this week, starting with the one that just dropped on Friday. Robert Parker from the Dungeon going up against Ben Goddard from the Den. Colin, how are you feeling about that match?
Well, listen, this match had everything going for it. You have two guys who, at this point, you don't really have any questions regarding their skill, regarding their talent. It's the moment. Is the moment going to be too big for one of these guys? Because the message this week from the Den was Robert's played a match. He's played a match in the big leagues, and it was against an IG Ace Cabrera, who we'll get to later, is now a completely different competitor in the Star Wars division. But IG Ace lost 23-8, knockout. So Parker seems to be, seeming at this point to be a pretty formidable foe. But Goddard also an extremely formidable foe. So these two going up against each other, these are the two. Christian mentioned it for weeks. These were his 2 Rookie of the Year heavyweights. And I think we got that to a point. We got 2 people who met at a moment, and one went one way and one went the other.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, this was one of those matches where, definitely going into it, you could not question the resolve of either of these 2 competitors. These were both folks that really wanted to be in this game and have been proving with every match that they deserve to be in this game, albeit, Robert Parker just having fewer matches to prove that than Ben Goddard did. Bogz, let me ask you, going into this, was there one person that you thought was going to have it more in the bag than anyone else?
Yeah, I was definitely heavily favoring Parker because of obviously the hype that's been brought in from all the competitors. Actually, also, I wouldn't say fearing him, but definitely aware of his ability in the fan leagues and things like that. So yeah, I was more interested in seeing how many questions he would actually miss, because he's got that reputation, hasn't he? But also obviously with Ben as well, that he has proven himself as a potential Rookie of the Year. So I was seeing, the potential 2 Rookies of the Year, who's going to come out on top. And I want to see how far he could push Parker as well, because obviously, like I said, heavily favored going into it. But yeah, so as you said, one, did kind of go one way, but it was a good fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely going into this match, Ben Goddard's energy was pretty much the same of, hey, if I lose, that's exactly what I'm supposed to do. And if I win, I'm the greatest. So definitely he didn't seem to have too much pressure going into it. And he had my second favorite moment of this match in his right off the bat promo, where he said, I have more points than your whole faction combined. Ooh.
Love that.
Ooh.
I literally
that should have counted as a point.
I stood up and did like a Rockettes dance, like in the middle of my living room, like, ooh, that was tough. Like, oh, he slapped him there. Like, that was good. That was good.
Absolutely. And Bogz, you are not the only one that was thinking Robert Parker might be able to edge this one out. As I mentioned, we have Twitter polls for all of the different matches, and our Twitter poll had Robert Parker favored at 61% over at Ben Goddard. So there are definitely, there's definitely some question about it. Some folks were kind of, on the fence saying, hey, Ben Goddard might be able to take him there. And that led us right into round 1. You're really just seeing right from the get-go who's going to be able to go off running, who's going to get cut first. Can you tell us a little bit about round 1, Bogz?
Yeah, so as you said, really tight round 1. Both got off to a good start. Up until they got the first four questions right. Up until the first miss, which was X-Men First Class, the tagline, which we have seen Ben miss a tagline question before, which he did address as well. Kind of said it's one of his weaker points, but yeah, like there's no slight in that, because it's how many questions could it potentially be attached to, and I didn't guess that. I don't know about you guys, but I know it was definitely a hard one. Then it came to a couple of questions later. He did miss another one, and I do kind of agree that Mark definitely distracted him with his ridiculous noises that he was making. I mean, just before he actually addressed it and asked for the repeat, I was thinking, Mark, what are you doing? Like, they're trying to answer questions. What kind of noise are you making? Yeah, so it was definitely distracting as just an audience member. So I'm not surprised, he was going up against Parker, having these distractions. So it definitely threw him off for the rest of the game. So I did feel for him on that aspect. And I thought maybe they should have given him like a free JT there, because it wasn't his fault that he's asking for JT. He's literally being distracted. So I thought it was a bit harsh, but yeah, I don't think it would change the outcome of the game. But that moment was definitely a changing point in the match.
Interesting, man. Yeah, Colin, I see you nodding along to that as well. I might be in the minority where I thought Mark was totally within his right to make bird noises. I mean, would I do that during the match? No, but it is one of those things where I feel like it's as much a part of the game as anything else, is that colored commentary. It's like with every Star Wars match, there's always the chance that you're going to get too distracted seeing Molly just hanging out on the chair, but I can see Colin, you got some things to say about that as well. Go for it, buddy.
I think there could be a different point of view to look at this from. And maybe Mark in his moment of jokingness, because he is a very solid comedian. I did see him do stand up live in San Francisco, one of the first dates I ever took my girlfriend on, and about 4 years ago. And the dude's hilarious, and he gets in his groove. And there is a point where he's like, well, he missed one question. Is he gonna miss another? And so he kind of gets into like, maybe I can keep joking here. There's no way he's going to miss this one. And maybe he gave Goddard too much of a benefit of like, this was a curveball, softball question, and it wasn't too hard for him. And, kind of thought that he could, josh around a little bit because it wasn't the hardest of questions. And even Ben mentioned at the end of the match, I knew Rosie Perez. After they said it, I knew it. And I missed it. So it was right there. And it wasn't, in terms of hard questions that were asked in this match, it wasn't the hardest of questions. So, it could be seen that like Mark, might have given Ben the benefit of the doubt. But in terms of the first round, I love these questions. I thought this was one of the most, entertaining in terms of questions about Hellboy 2, Brie Larson getting the MV shout out. I love Scott Pilgrim versus the World, one of my favorite movies. And so I just thought this first round was great, but you could definitely tell that after that miss on taglines that Goddard was rattled. He was clearly rattled. It stuck with him through the rest of the match, and it caused him to doubt himself. And once that, that little seed of doubtness creeps in, it's hard to shake it throughout the match, John.
Yeah, that's very fair, man. Yeah, and we saw by the end of round one, Goddard was facing already a little bit of an uphill battle with Parker going up 11-8 because Parker got not only just the general perfect round one, but then also got his bonus question, which then led us right into my absolute favorite moment of the match, which was when they had to censor Kaiser for his cussing, and then just edited by Nerd Chronic popped up. Just absolute shout outs to Nerd Chronic. He doesn't get enough love. A beautiful moment. But that does take us then into round two. A lot of Star Wars play. I thought the majority of our Star Wars talk was going to be just with Laura Kelly versus Ace Cabrera, but a lot of Star Wars action in this match too. Colin, what did you think of round two?
Round two was pretty exciting. I thought that the wheel provided some entertainment. I honestly didn't expect Parker to spin away from Star Wars. I thought that in the midst of this Star Wars tournament, this was a chance for Parker to solidify himself, where it kind of felt like if there was a chance for Parker to step in and say, look, I am a true contender to Smets and John Drew, that this is it. Like, Star Wars is your chance to say, I can hang. Because if there's anything as sweaty as Star Wars, show me. Because Star Wars can get as sweaty can get. And these were some sweaty Star Wars questions. I would have loved to have seen Robert answer this category in specific, because, Ben could tell, and even Kate mentioning that later in the match, I pushed Star Wars. That's on me. Kate took the blame for pushing Star Wars on her competitor. And I think she might have had maybe the same mindset that I did. This is a chance for her competitor to make a name for himself and to say that I'm here to hang. But after that steal that Ben got off of Robert, I was right back in the Ben Goddard camp of like, oh, we got a match. Yep. And I hate that the thing that made me remember what this was a toy. But the only instance of 1966 Penguin that I know is seeing a purple Funko Pop of the Penguin in a GameStop that I used to work at, and looking at it, I'll be like, oh, that was purple. Duh. Who doesn't know that the Penguin was purple in the 1966 Batman? Clearly, it's a hard question.
Yeah.
But getting back to it, going to multiple choice twice clearly comes back to get back into his seat of doubt that Ben is clearly not quite there in round two where he could have been, because going for Guardian of the Wills and Orson Krennic, saying that Rogue One's your favorite Star Wars movie and going 1 point on both of those, it's hard to carry that momentum when you build yourself up and then you can't even, hold yourself to the standards that you set for yourself, John. Round two just seemed like Robert, he seemed like he was down, climbed right back up, getting that steal of the 1-pointer on question 4, and it just seemed like it was over after that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, listen, no shame on the Funko Pop thing either. I mean, the reason I would have gotten the answer to this question right is because I saw a musical on YouTube that was a parody Batman musical wherein the character who played the Joker had a purple top hat. So that's how I put those pieces together. But yeah, and before we completely gloss over round two, I do want to, of course, give some love to Ben Goddard because he did avoid the straight up KO with his performance in round two. Bogz, how are you feeling about Parker's DC knowledge, Goddard's Star Wars knowledge? Did you think it was going to be as big of a difference going into round three? What were you thinking on it?
Yeah, I didn't really because with kind of Parker's questions, I thought they were quite hard as around, especially that penguin one. I think I'd like to say maybe I would guess purple just from seeing an image of it kind of throughout the years, but I don't it's from a 60s, right? So it was a hard question, I thought. So I literally went, oh, when he got the steal. So I was quite shocked. It was a random guess. So, I think
Andy's colorblind.
Yeah, exactly. How would you guess purple? Yeah, exactly. And then going on to writing, I do have to push back a little bit, Colin, because if I remember correctly off SEN, I do remember Ben saying Rogue One is his least favorite Star Wars movie. So I think that's why he didn't maybe know a couple of them. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So personally, I thought the Star Wars questions were a little bit soft, actually, to be honest with you. Yeah, he did go multiple choice on a couple, and he did obviously. Parker did steal a couple, but I thought they were reasonably fair, for a round two. So I didn't think it'd be that much of a gap. But obviously, as well, Kate saying, taking the blame and stuff. I think she was doing that maybe obviously in support of a teammate and stuff, but I don't think really that's 100% kind of. I want to say genuine, but for me, they were fair questions. Like, they were fair round two questions. He was obviously not able to pull them. But just going back to what you said as well, Colin, about I can't really blame Parker either for not spinning Star Wars because you don't know where it's going, especially with this tournament. I'm not surprised they're avoiding it because if you don't know the deep Star Wars questions, sometimes you might miss a few. And I don't think that's a slight to you potentially as a overall in a geekdom player because you don't know the quite specific Star Wars questions. So it's a risk basically hitting Star Wars. Obviously it is with other kind of wheel slices as well, but Star Wars specifically is a risk. I personally think he did get quite general questions, so I was quite surprised at the gap. But yeah, John, it was a good round two.
Yeah, I mean, and definitely I don't think any of us want to harp on, this idea of Kate being too hard on herself because I do think, her decision totally made sense, especially after seeing Robert Parker spin away from it. Like, I think Kate was fully in the right. Kate, we love you. You did a great job, Mom. We're all
better
big
than
fans
mother
here
in the world.
Absolutely. And it's also well worth noting, like she has, again, coached Ben Goddard to some crazy victories across the board in every division. So, we definitely don't want Kate to be too hard on herself. But alas, this match did, coming out of round two, end with Parker at 22 to Goddard's 14 points, with Goddard avoiding that straight up KO. But then heading into round three, Goddard also managed to stay away from that TKO as well, which, especially in this now, points-driven league, is huge. Bogz, tell us a little bit about round three.
Yeah, that was the main thing, I think, going into round three. Don't get knocked out. That's what I could kind of see him visualizing. But no, he did well. He hit all 3 points. Obviously got the Lord of the Rings question. Then he got the Obi-Wan question, which is kind of harder than some of the other ones he's got in round two. So I was surprised at that. And he's got obviously the Harry Potter question. I didn't know that myself. I'm not a Harry Potter guy. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, done really well there.
That was my favorite question of the match.
I've got no idea.
I loved it. It was such a tough question, and I wanted him. There were 3 possible answers. One was Grip Hook, one was Luna Lovegood, and the other was Ollivander. And I really thought a cop out was saying Ollivander and Luna Lovegood, and the fact that he mentioned Grip Hook was the deep cut. I was proud of him for getting the deep cut because Grip Hook is the same goblin who leads Harry to the on his first trip into the bank. So it's kind of a callback to the first movie. So it's pretty deep cut. So I was proud of Goddard for pulling that out.
Fair enough. Yeah. But yeah, I'm fully impressed with obviously Ben hitting all them, and then Parker finished it off really, John.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that that Harry Potter question, even again, as someone who loves Harry Potter, that's probably one of those ones where I would have just wrote in Groot. That's always my default inner geekdom answer. It's just this is probably Groot, right? He's in a couple movies. But yeah, and then Colin at the end of round 3, all Parker really needed to do to win it was get his 2 and 3 right, which he managed to do. How are you feeling about his questions?
I love the 2-pointer. I'm a big Back to the Future guy. I love Marty McFly. I love that shirt. I love that shirt.
There we go.
We've had a big week of Funko Pop. I'm a big Funko Pop guy of San Diego Comic-Con reveals. We have Marty McFly in the future getting a reveal, so I thought that's cool. It's the 35th anniversary of the franchise. Yeah. And Biff saying, "Oh, Mr. McFly. Oh, I came in. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. McFly. I was cleaning your car and I spilled a beer on my shirt, Mr. McFly." And it's so great. It's such a great question. And then the Mac question from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yeah. I've literally seen the movie once in theaters. Once. I've seen the movie one time. It was in theaters, and that was it. And I don't remember anything about that movie except the end and the floating pyramid of dust-ish thing. And the fact that any human is able to pull a detail from that movie besides Shia LaBeouf or Harrison Ford. Bravo. And for that to be, that's a 3-pointer? Is that really Indiana Jones fans? Please come at us in the comments. Is that a 3-pointer? Because I don't know. I don't know enough Indiana Jones to know if that's a 3-pointer, but that felt like a 5-pointer to me. Yeah. The way he answered it was felt like a 5-pointer. Again, just solidifying that Parker, his knowledge knows no ends. He can answer any question. And so far, the only thing we just haven't seen him answer is Star Wars. So, Robert, I guess I'm putting the call out there. Maybe pick Star Wars next time on Spinner. If you spin Spinner's Choice, prove me wrong. Maybe pick some Star Wars.
Hey, why not? Yeah, this was an incredible match for Robert Parker. Even if we don't know exactly how down pat he's got those Star Wars questions, he's certainly proven so far that he was a solid choice for the dungeon, especially because, dungeon was one of those factions that was looking a little iffy coming into this tournament. So it's good to see that Parker is definitely coming with it. However, again, we all just want to make sure that, Ben Goddard is, of course, in no way knocked out of the consideration for Rookie of the Year. The guy, he still is 1-1 now in Inner Geekdom, and that's also not including the great work he's been doing in singles and teams. So we're hoping that, neither Ben nor Kate are being too hard on themselves. This was a good match, certainly intense. Really, the biggest takeaway that we can, I think, take from this match is no bird calls. Don't do bird calls in any match for any reason, It's same reason you don't shout fire in a theater. Don't make bird calls during a Schmoedown match. And
Officially
now we know.
John, before we go, before we leave off the dungeon, because I know that's kind of it for the week, this really is setting up possibly a Robert Parker versus Smets, meeting at some point. And I want to throw this to you right now. Where are you at on that matchup?
On the likelihood of it, or who do I think would come out?
Who do you have right now? Because I see a collision course right now.
I mean, if I were to go into that match trying to pick a winner, I would pick Smets ultimately. Not just because Smets has had more time and experience in the actual Schmoedown ring itself, but also because it's something I talked about a little while back, where I think the reason that Smets is so unstoppable right now is because he took a loss to Kalinowski. I really think that first loss can really make you in the Schmoedown. It's important to learn how to lose and then come back from it. It's something that you've seen so many of the greats do. And I feel like, Robert Parker, he's certainly proving that he knows his stuff, and I'm not trying to disparage him at all. But I think he's just a little bit too green at this point. And I think just ultimately when it comes to that hands-on experience, that's going to be what sets him apart. What about you, Bogz? What do you think of that matchup?
Tough one. He's got to go through a friend of the show first, Chance Ellison. He's got to see him. That means he's probably got to maybe beat Kalinowski. Who's to say even that might happen? If Chandru wins against Smets, that might not be the case. So yeah, well, to answer your question, I do. If they were going to play tomorrow, I would back Smets based on everything you just said, John. Basically, big game experience, coming back from a loss is a part of the learning curve. Yeah, just overall kind of wins under the belt, things like that. 5-round experience, things like that, which obviously hasn't been through yet. So yeah, I definitely would back Smets as of tomorrow. But obviously, we've got way more matches to get to that. So yeah, so I'm backing Smets on that one, Colin.
Absolutely. And Colin, what about you? You posed the question. What do you think?
Robert Parker scares the daylights out of me. I see no fear in his eyes. I see someone who finds pure joy in answering questions right. And even when he's rattled, I saw him rattled today. There was a moment where he didn't know the color of a hat from a movie that came out probably before his parents were born. He's a very young kid. Like, yeah, I mean, like my parents were born in the 60s and I probably got 10 years, like almost 7-8 years on the kid. Like, who knows? I don't feel bad for the kid for missing that. And then he comes back and gets the steal on the first question of Ben's group of questions. And that is him answering the Star Wars question. So I guess I got to give him credit for answering that Star Wars question before the question was even asked again. So I guess I do have to give him credit for that. And that was impressive. And there's a killer mentality there that I feel like Smets is the Barr, and I just want to see him go up against the Barr. And Kalinowski, I wish Chance and Kalinowski were flipped on the bracket. Oh, how I wish they were flipped on the bracket, because a Kalinowski versus Parker semifinal or quarterfinal, that would be so good. That'd be so good. So good.
I mean, listen, my bracket has a Kalinowski Robert Parker final, so we'll have to see about that. But I'm glad you brought up Kalinowski, the both of you even, because we got to talk about that next Intergeekdom match. Mike Kalinowski from Corruption versus Greg Alba from the Quirky Mercs. Now, going into this match, our Twitter poll had Kalinowski favored at 78%. A lot of the narrative around this match seemed pretty much like everybody counting out Greg Alba. And what we got was first off, very fun match, but then B, I think a closer match than a lot of people would have expected. Bogz, what did you think about the match?
Pretty much everything that you've said there. I actually thought Alba was looking a little bit nervous, at the start, not nervous laughter, kind of quite complimentary of Kalinowski going in. I thought, oh, no, save that for afterwards. But no, he kept kind of revealing his cards like he was just happy to compete. So I thought, oh, okay, what kind of attitude are you going in with? But I understand he's being respectful. But yeah, just as someone who was expecting the win or trying for the win, I just thought that wasn't kind of the best language I wanted to hear. But obviously, I completely understand you're going against a 2-time champion there and one of the best of all time. So yeah, I kind of didn't hold it too much against him. But I was quite surprised to hear this was the first in a Geekdom match for Kalinowski in 6 months. So, and he still got a high, obviously, point total. And also, I completely forgot that Coy beat Kalinowski. I was like, oh, okay, right, I completely forgot about that. So yeah, must have gave him good advice and stuff. But yeah, I was super excited for Kalinowski coming back into the match. So yeah, I can't wait.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, definitely Greg knew who he was going up against in this match. He definitely knew what was going on from the jump with his little promo, making those Chuck Norris style jokes about Kalinowski single-handedly bringing up the Snyder Cut. Oh boy. But yeah, I do think that this match was a lot closer, and I think maybe that's partially because since Greg knew exactly who he was going up against, he really, put his mind to it and really worked to keep this match as close as it was. Colin, what do you think?
Yeah, Greg impressed me so much in this match, and I mentioned this in our pre-production meeting that Greg is a more refined Josh McCouga. He brings that spunk to the Schmoedown that attracts you to watching somebody. And then his knowledge just off the bat is really impressive. And he had me in the McCouga vibes when he totally guessed Catwoman. Tell me wrong, the dude guessed Catwoman, and I had instant Makuga vibes that like, oh, he just pulled that out of nowhere. And I love it. And it was right. And it's so like early days of the Schmoedown. And I loved it so much. And the whole match, he felt like he was hanging. He missed the same question that Mike missed in round 1 with Naomi Aki. And you get through it. And he's only down, I mean, was it 9-7?
Yeah.
At the end of round 1? I mean, he's hanging with one of the greatest IG players in the history of the game. And you're just super impressed. And I know that wasn't the impression. Clearly, by our poll, it was 78 to 22%. And 9-7 does not represent that poll at the end of the first round. So overall, John, I'm just super impressed with what Greg brought to the table. And the Quirky Mercs, I think, have a stud in the future in terms of just overall Schmoedown presence, somebody you want to see in a match, and that goes a long way in this new format, is appearances, and Greg is somebody who you want to see play.
Yeah, I mean, if you weren't thinking it after his free-for-all A Star Is Born entrance, you certainly can't argue with it now. You are right, yeah, round 1, pretty close by the end of it, 9-7 in favor of Kalinowski. Also, very interesting to note that Kalinowski, also didn't get a perfect round, which I was definitely surprised by. But Bogz, like you had mentioned, it was kind of interesting to put it in the context of, all right, this is his first Inner Geekdom match back in 6 months after a very emotional departure from it. So it was definitely fair. Then we go into round 2, which I gotta stress this because this was one of my favorite things about this match. Is that if you actually look at the way that the points lined up, Alba got 8 out of 10 possible points from his round, which is more than Kalinowski got, because Kalinowski got 7 out of 10 from possible points, and then managed to then get a steal multiple choice point from the Jimmy Olsen question. But it was an intense second round, really keeping it close. Colin, how did you feel about it?
I mean, for the spins, unfortunate for Greg. We kind of go back to what we went through before. Coy seems to be on this mindset of DC is more broad, DCEU is more, nail biting type questions. Mike going from Marvel to Middle Earth. You can see that he's been, Middle Earth is, you are either super confident, which it seemed like Ben Goddard wanted that today, or on Friday, and Mike just seemed a little hesitant coming into Middle Earth, and it seemed to show in his round 2. But like it seems, he's a champion. He pushes through like a champion. He still ends up only missing his second question, and I don't believe Greg was able to steal it. So in all, it wasn't too much of a hinder on his round. And John, I still just impressed with Greg. Again, just Greg coming through in the second round in the DCEU. Besides that second question, I mean, if in terms of nerddom, I kind of see like if the question that you miss is actor or actress's name, if you miss something because of IMDb, I feel like that's excusable in the overbearing of Inner Geekdom. We care about the hard pressing questions in Inner Geekdom. Because same thing, Kalinowski missed in round 1, missed Naomi Aki. If the only thing you're going to miss in this round is an actor and actress's name, that's something you can go back and fix. That is something you can go back and fix. You don't have to watch a whole movie because you missed this question or go watch a scene. You can just go recap the IMDb page. So for both of these guys, super impressive round 2s. John, I'm just overall still impressed by Greg. Just overall coming out of this match, Greg is the shining star.
Absolutely, yeah, and no one's gonna fault Greg Alba for not knowing who played Beaufort. That's a tough question to get. I hate to say it, but if you ask me who played Beaufort, I'm gonna say Groot, and I know it's gonna be wrong, and it's not gonna matter. I'm gonna say the tree guy played the dwarf guy. Bogz. Then we get into round 3 again with just that 2-point edge Kalinowski has over Alba. Was there any part of you that was like, oh, this might actually go to Greg? Like, were you kind of on the edge of your seat as far as that went?
Yes and no, because we know Kalinowski is outstanding in round 3, under pressure and all that. So I was confident in Kalinowski hitting it, but Alba, I was definitely impressed with him. By the way, I actually did know that round 2 won because James Nesbitt is quite a big actor in the UK, so I did know who that was. Just on a side note, but yeah, he's obviously got his round 2. His round 3, he's obviously missed, which is an extremely hard question. I thought the Star Trek one. What was the name of the ship? Like come on, like give the guy a chance, you know, because obviously he's hit his 5-pointer, but yeah, I felt for him big time getting that. Obviously, Kalinowski knew it, but yeah, it was a really tough one for round 3. But yeah, he does so well overall. Even obviously Kalinowski afterwards being impressed with his performance, hanging in the whole way, giving an extremely good account of himself. So yeah, I'm looking forward to his partner John Humphrey, obviously, hopefully next week. But yeah, he's nothing to be ashamed of here. He was thoroughly impressive and put in a good performance.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Greg did a great job being able to hit that 5-pointer as well. Keep things going was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was so funny, man. Like definitely kind of round 1, round 2, you can see a little bit of the ring rust, just as far as being out of inner geekdom for a minute on Kalinowski.
Mm-hmm.
But then answering the name of the airline that Wonder Woman got on, that was a 20-pointer. If you ask me, man, that was absurd and definitely like you were saying, Bogz, an absolute showcase of why Kalinowski is a legend in this division. Colin, woof, right? Woof.
Like, if anyone else was writing that movie, the answer is Ferris Air, right? But it's not. It's Turkish Air. It's not. Like, if you're trying to plug in, because that's what I wrote down. I wrote Ferris Air. I was like, oh, it's a 5-pointer. Oh, and I totally whiffed. And I knew I whiffed as soon as I wrote it. I was like, "Oh, it's Turkish." Just as soon as she said it, I was like, "Ah."
Yeah, as soon as you said it,
hard question,
yeah.
right? Because it's not like a DC answer. It's not a deep comic book cut answer. It's just a freaking ad. It's an ad. An ad was the answer. It wasn't like something from a comic book that you could pull from something. It was literally an ad that paid to help make the movie. And so, but the fact that it went down to the 5, that's what I think needs to be, you know, the main point of this match was that the Quirky Mercs were set up from the beginning for this to use their name, a Merkin. This was set up from the beginning that KO could have KO'd Greg quite quickly if the champion who we saw last June, you know, came to play today. We didn't see a costumed, you know, KO Kalinowski today. We saw a very mild in his safe element this week Kalinowski. We saw, you know, a guy who looked vulnerable. You know, we haven't seen that before. He's usually in his armor. He's got his Batman armor on. He's got it, you know, we saw him in the great graphics, you know, in the Captain America outfit. That's one of my favorite graphics of Schmoedown history is him going against Smets last year. And it just seemed that Greg stood his ground. And that what I thought was super proud to see somebody like Greg, who's been in this sphere for a very long time, be able to come in first time IG and you know, against one of these great competitors and prove that he can hang. And I think that's key for Coy, because Coy's going to have to do some reassessing here at some point and say that, look, I might have a couple too many IG people. I might be leaning a little too heavy IG, especially with incoming Kevin Smith. Super excited about that, by the way. And it seems like, you know, we might have to see which if these competitors have another you know, hand up their sleeve that they could play. Maybe Star Wars, maybe singles, maybe doubles. Do we bring back, you know, the Real Rejects as a strong doubles team? We're going to see that later on this year, probably.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we saw a little bit earlier this year. I remember the Quirky Mercs went up against the Den, featuring Ben Goddard, who we talked about previously. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, you know, the Quirky Mercs are such interesting guys, and especially seeing Greg definitely just hone his craft for this tournament specifically. Obviously, you don't want to face Kalinowski in an Inner Geekdom tournament. You don't want to do it. But the way that Alba managed to make the most of this match really proved that he has a place in the division. I thought it was great. Definitely not the shutout, like you were saying, Colin, not the armored up Kalinowski. Kalinowski that's a little bit more comfortable, but you also heard him, you know, talking not only in his pre-game interview, but then also one-on-one with John Rocha over on the Outlaw Nation YouTube channel, you can hear Kalinowski talking about these younger bucks in the Inner Geekdom division, and it's got him excited. And that's part of why I'm excited to see, if he goes up against Robert Parker, what we're going to get, as well as, of course, seeing Kalinowski versus Eric Zipper, the retiring of Zippity Doodah, if there is a God, hopefully. Colin, what do you have for us, man?
Well, it does, it's interesting that you bring that up about Parker, because Kalinowski does say in his post-game interview, he predicts his partner, Chance Ellison, now friend of the show, Chance Ellison, to beat Robert Parker coming up in the next match. So, presenting an interesting foil, do we see a Chance Ellison versus KO final, which I am here for? The drama surrounding that. I am all for interfaction warfare. This is something we have yet to see in these tournaments. In the final, if the final's the first time we can see this,
Absolutely, yeah. I do remember last year we got, no, actually it might have been 2 years ago now. I forget at this point. But back during the days of the Fife Club, when we got Clark Wolf versus Mark Andreyko, for that singles tournament, obviously a little while
the
ago.
stakes were so much lower compared to what they are now. But even then, you were like, wow, this is huge. Clark versus Mark. When will this ever happen again? And now it's like, oh, geez, the stakes are to the roof.
Absolutely. It makes you question, between Chance and Mike, which member of Corruption is more likely to actually get that 3 belts title to their name. Because I know Mike was hungry for it, but definitely Chance. And I hope we don't sound biased just because he's the first Schmoedown competitor to like us, but you can't argue with results, can you, baby? We're going to wrap up our discussion of the Inner Geekdom matches to talk about Laura Kelly, also from Corruption, versus Ace Cabrera from Swag. Now, I think all three of us have talked about how we like Ace and how we appreciate him, but Bogz, I know you especially have been on the Ace train for this tournament. How do you feel about this match, buddy?
We told you. Everyone listening, watching, we told you. Watch our previous episodes. We were backing Ace every part of the way. Through his playing match, through the Ken match, through this match. We told you all that he was going to win this. He was going to cause 2 hours before the match drop. I checked the Facebook poll. I'm pretty sure that Tim Sim dropped a poll about, obviously we've dropped one ourselves, but in the Facebook group, 90% said Laura Kelly was going to win that. 90%.
That's compared to ours that was 75 to 25.
90%. Just on pure principle, I just clicked Ace, just so I'll give him a bit of support, click it, But what happened? It was one of the best matches I've ever seen. How much heart and spirit and character has that guy got to show? How much heart? Like, I'm gonna jump all over the place with this one, but so impressed with him, man. Like, it was just awesome. Loved every second of it. What an upset. Comeback of the year, all that. So yeah, let's get into it, boys.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely Ace proven to be the dark horse of this tournament and really solidifying his spot. I do also just want to make sure that we do give our love to Laura Kelly, not just because she was the one favored going into this match, but she definitely put on a good match. And I don't know how you guys feel, but I would say that this match, honestly, for me, as someone who doesn't know Star Wars, I put this match on par with Demolanta versus Scrimshaw, because even though, it was round 1 versus sudden death, it still just came down to that one question difference. Colin, what did you think about it, man?
And not just that. And so we can compare it question by question basis. And I totally agree with you. It's on par. I'm going to take it a step further and say the pre-show, everything, the week leading up to this match, everything. If you want to take the whole drama, everything in the Schmoedown that we have going on in terms of what happened on Monday night with the awesome, show on a certain point of view with the ladies of the Schmoedown coming out and giving, just an amazing night. Everything with that leading up to Wednesday, and the whole Schmoedown universe is, colliding on this one day. And it's just a match for the centuries. It's just a match. It's just an all-time Schmoedown match. And then the pre-show, you get Nerd Chronic is on fire for this one. I say it every week. Nerd Chronic is always on fire. Bringing back I think my favorite line that anyone's had, any manager of this whole, this whole new, StreamYards world we're living in, with the recordings is Winston coming on, totally quiet in his white robe, at one with the Force, and this whole vibe that they're bringing of, you know, calmness, of serenity, that they are truly one with the Force. It's an amazing vibe, you know. It's just this vibe that they're on, and I'm with it, and it just played great. Laura's vibe of the dark side, of feeding into the dark side. I've always, you know, loved that, you know, feeding into the dark side of the Force. And for that to be played off so well in this match, both of them, the light and the dark, both have their positives. Listen, I've read both sides. I'm probably a gray Jedi at the end of the day, but like, they both have their plus and minuses, and these two wrote it out. And it was an all-timer on all fronts. Question-wise, production, it was so great, John. I had such a great time this match, and Ace just so well deserved. And you could see it. You could see Christian even after the match. Christian was like, look at you. My son. Almost feeling like, you know, this is one of my children, you know, coming to fruition. And it's Star Wars, you know. If it's different if it's singles or something, but it's Star Wars, and they all love Star Wars. That's the thing in this group. It's like Star Wars is the thing. And for Ace to be on that cusp of greatness, it's just something for the Schmoes.
Absolutely. And now especially taking that record of the most consecutive wins in the division too. Like, that's also, you know, just adding to the legacy of Ace Cabrera in this division. And like you were saying, Laura Kelly stepping up as a heel this year and just immediately crushing it as one. Like Shannon posted a very lovely little thread over on one of the Facebook groups as well, talking about just how incredible Laura Kelly has been with this new persona, but with a storybook reading. It was gorgeous. I don't know where I fall personally on the conflict between light and dark. I think I'm just whatever the heck a Babu Frick is. But
he's my oldest friend.
He's a friend. Excellent. That's all that
my
matters.
Oldest friend.
Let's
Thanks, Bogz.
I swear I've seen some Star Wars. I promise.
Won't hold it against you, don't worry.
Let's talk about
Sorry, I just want to say on the back of that, the promos, where I did, you know, for the dark side, well, the dark side girls were obviously Laura and well, the corruption girls. And what happened is, if for some reason it reminded me of like of like Vader and Palpatine in Empire. And they're talking about, there's a disturbance in the Force, and when Vader says to Palpatine, he's just a boy. Well, I thought, the boy's done good. The boy's done good.
So and your ace was Luke, and he was coming. Oh,
exactly. And Winston, and I was watching it. Okay, in the promo, and okay, I'm excited. I'm just watching Winston and Shannon go at it. And then when he turns around and he goes, what have we here? I was like, okay, let's go. I just got so hyped up, man. That was like, because that immediately meant for me that
he's
watching him. Yeah, he's watching him. He's studying alongside Ace. So he's just as connected as opposed to just doing a character thing, which obviously Shannon's doing. It's really great. But I thought, okay, it's another level here where, okay, I thought, okay, right. Winston's
he
playing
said
as well.
that after the match, and that had me in it too. He's like, when I saw the look in his face, and I know, Bogz, I could tell you've had that look in your face when you've watched either when you run the original trilogy, or you run the prequel trilogy, or you run a storyline in Clone Wars where you're like, I effing love Star Wars. Yeah. And Winston had it in his eyes. He had it, and he saw it at the end of the match, and that Ace brought that over to him, and it's contagious. It's infectious. And right now, the Force is pushing the Chosen One right now. And it's gonna, boy, this is good. Oh man, this is good.
Oh man, listen,
let's get into the match, John. Let's get into the match.
I was gonna say I've got that same passion, just not for Star Wars, specifically for the movie G-Force. But yeah, like you were saying,
shout out to the hamsters.
Guinea pigs, how dare you,
guinea
sir.
Pigs.
Bogz, I'm done with Colin. Let's talk about you, Bogz. Let's get into the details of this match. Round one, that first blood, these hardcore questions. Bogz, take us through it.
First blood. Well, first of all, I do think, based on this match, I've decided Swag has the best music. It just gets you pumped. It just gets you hyped. They did big up the person who composed it. I forgot his name, but yeah, that's definitely the most. It just gets you hyped up and excited. But yeah, round one, obviously they both went 3 for 3. And then, oh my God, when she's, because I personally thought it was 10 for some reason. Just in my own head, I thought the answer was 10. And he's put 9. I thought, oh no, he's got it wrong. And then he goes correct. And then I was like, and she put 10. I thought, oh my, it's on Twitch. I was watching on my phone. I literally dropped my phone. Like when she got it, I caught it. I didn't let it hit the ground, obviously, but I was so shocked. She's perfect. I mean, she's not missed a question ever in round 1. And for her to miss, I missed it too, but it's a round 1 question. I couldn't believe it. Like you guys have said every episode, the Russian was cooked. That was the moment I thought, oh my God, like it's there for you. You just got that. You got the lead. You got to keep it. That was that was my overall kind of assessment of round 1. And obviously he's hit the bonus point, which is a grievous question. So yeah, I could not believe she missed that. That was one of the surprises of the whole tournament.
Absolutely. Well, and as our producer Mike is pointing out to us, this was her first miss throughout the tournament, which is also, again, just a crazy testament to how deep these cuts can get and how on point. And I'm going to also agree with our producer Mike that I personally knew this question, even as someone who's not a big Star Wars fan, because that Weird Al song, I was just running through those lyrics in my head because I was like, I know he said it at some point where he's 9 and she's 14. Very good call, producer Mike. But yeah, then we get into round 2. Perfect across the gosh danged board, Colin. How are you feeling about this match? Again, just seeing the level of perfection that both these two are at.
Okay, well, first, round 2, there's only really one thing to talk about round 2, and it's the Rocha incident, because that I agree with the overall end result of what happened, with how we got to where we got to the score and everything that got us there. The question, it was the whole idea that the whole process of asking a question and then having, the discussion come up after the deliberation has been made. It's hard, but Rocha being the answer, R2 also being the answer, Christian seeing that, yes, both of these would have been an answer. We would have given it either way. What really kind of bugged me about round 2 is kind of in between round 2 and round 3, regardless of the end result, I wasn't a big fan of Winston's decision to challenge in between the rounds. It seemed like he was kind of in his own, kind of in his head about, the initial decision. And yes, 2 points is going to make a massive difference, but I don't exactly know what argument he was bringing in to exactly fix the situation. I don't know what end result he was looking for besides asking a different question. Like if they already gave her the points, what are you going to do? Get him to ask her a different question and then she just answers the question right anyways? Like, you're putting I think, we talk about eggs in a basket. Kate talked about that a lot in their match today. I think that's putting your eggs in, a basket that you can't control. You can't control, what the next question is going to be. You can only control what you're in control of now. And at the end of that round, Ace was up 21-19. So it just seemed interesting to me that, both players going perfect, it just seemed kind of a momentum killer. If it seemed like if we're in hyperspace, he kind of jerked the knob down and kind of jerked us out of hyperspace for a second, because Ace was in full blown. We're going straight to the top at that point. So, John, I don't know what you guys thought about that moment, but that seemed to be the big climax of round 2, and it was at the end.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it was definitely a huge moment in this match. I think for me, I kind of wrote it off a little bit. In my mind, I kind of associated that final challenge by Winston, kind of the same way that I thought about the Dagnino challenge to Milazzo when he was like, oh, well, he should have gotten a whiteboard for it, where I was just like, I can sort of see what the argument is, and I can give, my sympathy to Winston again, just because of the technical issues that can sometimes pop up when recording these remotely. But I do agree with you, Colin, that I don't think ultimately the challenge really held that much water when you think about it. And I think it was just one of those things where Winston is just like, I'm just going to make sure I'm fighting for my guy every step of the way. And there's only so much I can fault the dude on that, even if it was ultimately for something where I was like, this is ultimately just making the match last a couple minutes longer. Ultimately, what about you, Bogz? What did you think of it?
Yeah, I kind of agree with both of you. First of all, in the movie, I actually thought she got the question completely wrong, because in the movie they actually call him Stinky. So they didn't call him the name that she gave, right? So I thought, oh, okay, she's got it wrong, and that was a steal. But obviously, that's not his official name. So yeah, that was
Snips.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I guess Winston was actually challenging the question that didn't ask for a specific person rather than who else was there, in the vicinity, kind of thing. So yeah, I think they were quite lucky to get the challenge, to keep the challenge as well. Which ended up quickly kind of going away. So yeah, so it was it just added to the drama of the whole thing. But after this, I was kind of most surprised about Cabrera's composure throughout all of it. All this stuff getting thrown at you and not kind of losing your way, not getting frustrated, not kind of stopping Winston, anything like that, just staying in the game, just answer the questions. Obviously, smashed Rogue One out of the park. So did Laura Kelly, of course. But yeah, I was gripped on every answer Ace was giving, because he was giving them so quick as well. Like, he knew that he was smiling, like, before he's giving the answers, like, so confident. I was thinking, what the hell? This guy's the underdog, and he's like ultra confident. So yeah, it was so thrilling round 2, going on to round 3, John.
Absolutely, yeah. Andres pitching that perfect Rogue One game. Laura Kelly, even with her, hesitation a little bit on that mixed bag category, which that can always be a little bit brutal. But again, also pitching a perfect game. Ending with Laura Kelly at 19 points versus Cabrera at 21. Then we get into that round 3, Bogz. I mean, just go ahead, take us through it a little bit, man. I mean, obviously, yeah, there was that additional challenge that got pulled out before the game was done.
Yeah, so he's challenged Laura Kelly's first 2-point question, which he was asked in the Corrado match. So, but apparently it was not upheld because that was a play-in match. Again, I don't know, but yeah, she got it right nonetheless. And then they've kind of both gone through each one, knocking out the park. But I'm sorry, but Ace's 5-rounder. What kind of question is this? the parking ticket. Like, I've not even heard that in the movie, and for him to pull it out, oh my god, I was like, I was like, he was celebrating before he gave the answer. He was like this before he's giving. I couldn't believe the confidence that obviously massive shout out to Laura as well for getting all 3 questions, but I can't believe the confidence that he had, and just knocking out the park. But from the guy being laughed at a few weeks ago for even attempting to come into the tournament, for him to celebrate getting a 5-pointer in a semi-final, I was so impressed, man. So happy for the guy. But yeah, Laura just missing 1 question all game, all tournament, and losing. I mean, it shows what quality player she is as well. But it wasn't her time. It was Ace's time.
Absolutely. This is the most joy you're ever going to see about a parking violation. You guys hear me? This is the one and only time that everyone's going to be rallying around this. But yeah, man, it was an intense match and a phenomenal match with so much knowledge on the board all the way throughout. Colin, like, all 3 of us were saying, this match is on par with Dimolanta versus Scrimshaw. How are you feeling, especially since, you're much more of a Star Wars fan than I am, as has been established so many times throughout the show. But yeah, just as a big Star Wars fan, how great was getting to watch that 3rd round with such deep cuts?
I'm just inspired for the future of this division. This division is so solidified. It just has heavy contenders. Like, Laura is a champion. Laura is any other division. I don't think any other division is as truly top heavy as the Star Wars division is, because everyone is so read up on the same stuff. And we talked about that before. It's the guidelines in which they play. And the Star Wars ones are some finite guidelines. When you get into singles, that's some big stuff, man. That's some vague stuff in singles, and we don't have to talk about that yet. Luckily, we got a couple months, but I gotta read up. I gotta brush up on my singles knowledge. Right now, we're in my wheelhouse with IG and Star Wars, and these Star Wars competitors are balling, and I am so excited for just next season. Like next season, could you imagine if like for some grace we get Sam Whitwer to come back in this thing? Like we got competitors. We have competitors to go up against him, not just name Alex Damon because he knows Alex Damon. I want him to go up against Ace. Say, who the hell is Ace Cabrera? Well, boy, you gonna know now. You're gonna know now. That's for sure.
Right.
You're gonna know now. You're gonna know the boy because you're gonna know the distance runner drinking 17 liters of water a day. My dude is doing it. He's coming. And D Malantic pops in at the end, and that was great by Christian. Like we get into that because I'm so excited for that job because that just had me going. The fact that he comes in and to start it all off with Ace just getting into it, just doing it for Winston. Doing it for Winston, I thought, with Ace not doing it for himself. Because that's the thing you find with athletes in any sport. They're never doing it for themselves. The champions find something else to play for, to put their, passion towards. Whether, NFL teams sometimes find a child with cancer comes through their facility and inspires them throughout the season. Something of that. He met Winston at one of these matches, and he said, I was never really big into the Schmoedown. And I met Winston, and Winston inspired me. And you saw it, and you see the way they talk to one another. You can tell these dudes are bros. And that's something special. Like, that's a special relationship of being close with somebody that you trust them. And to call them ride or die, like to bring it up. I mean, ride or die, Fast and Furious and Vogue, one of my favorite franchises. Like to go ride or die with a guy at the end of the day is as deep as you can go. And these two are in it to win it, John. You can tell. And that's what you need. You need that trust with one another. Right now, Ace trusts his manager and his manager trusts him.
Absolutely, yeah. And, to keep things rolling a little bit, it's also worth looking at now where the factions are at. Because with that ride or die connection that Winston has with Andres Cabrera, Swag got up 3 extra points, which is keeping them close to Finstock's heels. Obviously, Finstock is still pretty solidly in round 1, or in slot number 1, excuse me, not round 1. But, they're certainly pretty up there. But Winston is really keeping close, which is especially big since Swag is completely out of the Inner Geekdom tournament. So that's big on them. And we'll see how Ace is able to keep the momentum going for Swag until the, singles or teams tournaments. And then you also have Corruption and Dungeon, which are both now up to 11 points because of their 2 wins. So they have skyrocketed up. Obviously, that whole middle to bottom area of the standings is kind of contentious right now. But Corruption is now at number 4 on the factions, right underneath the Den. And then Dungeon is now right behind Corruption, which means that, now the Rock Stars, the Burning Droogs, and the Quirky Mercs have all been kind of knocked down a little bit. And this is going to be, a big moment coming out of this to see what happens. The Den now being out of both tournaments is pretty big, especially since they're in that 3rd slot. How much more fluctuation do you think we're going to see just in the next week or two, Bogz?
From the kind of bottom half, I'd say really just the Rock Stars. Obviously, he's still got Star Wars champ in Inner Geekdom. If he gets any points, then they could climb. But really, it's about Corruption and the Dungeon. How high are they going to climb based on their wins, based on the big time players they've got left, and how much kind of the Finstock Exchange are going to go further in front. They've got finalists in the Star Wars division and obviously a quarterfinalist in the Barbarian. So them guys are changing. Obviously, some other guys are staying static, waiting for other tournaments and other title shots and mandatory title matches and stuff. But yeah, so Corruption and the Dungeon and the Finstock are going to be the biggest changes, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. And we've heard a lot of talk, specifically over the past 2 or 3 weeks, I think, about managers kind of being a little bit more upfront about like, all right, we got a pretty Inner Geekdom heavy squad, or like, oh, we've got a very heavy like singles and teams focused division. Obviously, I bemoaned this with Sam a little while back with the Molly Damon match against Imolanta. So, it is kind of interesting to see how these teams are kind of coming to their own understanding of themselves in a way. Colin, is there any squad that you feel like is really going to be the one that like stands on top of the ashes by the time that we're done with these 2 specific Star Wars and Inner Geekdom tournaments?
Well, right now, the one that seems to stand out is the Dungeon. it seems like the dungeon has the mentality of we're in it, and the manager and Kaiser, if he's not entertaining, I don't know what else he is, because I just love him in the energy that he brings. It's not too Bobby Finstock-esque, but it's wild card-esque. You know, the dude's a wild card. You don't know what you're gonna get. Is the guy standing out at his Zen garden in the backyard, or is he inside indoors, you know, doing his thing? You don't know what you're gonna get with Kaiser. And I think Kaiser brings this energy of winning. You know, he instills, you know, even Parker said after his match, Kaiser's gonna make me watch Batman 66 upside down. And that's that kind of mentality, you know, that's that, like, you know, that winner's mentality. And that's what you want to see. And I think the dungeon going forward, they got the steam. A lot of it's on Parker. And if Parker can push it out through this tournament, I think it because, like you said, it's between KO and the dungeon. And a lot of that comes down to this next match between Chance and Parker, because then that's all possible points. Because then that's more possible points. That's guaranteed points if KO and Chance get to the finals. That's guaranteed points for corruption. Parker's got to be thinking the dungeon needs a spot in that final.
Absolutely. And before we get too much into kind of the future of both the Star Wars and Inner Geekdom tournaments, we got some news. I teased it up at the top of the show, but the singles tournament, 36 competitors. It's going to be huge. And we do know 8 of the people who are competing, though we don't know any specific matches yet. So I just wanted to run down these names for you guys. First up, from the Burning Droogs, we have Bonnie Somerville coming back. For the Den, we have Rachel Silvestrini, who was also in the singles tournament last year. For the Finstock Exchange, we have former singles champion Mark Riley, who, albeit lost last year in the first round to the ultimate bracket breaker, Stacey Howard. For Corruption, we have newcomer Adam Collins, Fan Leagues guy. It'll be interesting to see how he steps up. The Quirky Mercs have put in both former singles champion William Bibiani and finalist from last year's tournament as well. But then also Perry Nemiroff, who's finally coming back to singles. Her record, you know, she's got 1 singles match to her name. So it's going to be fun to see her coming back to the Schmoedown generally, but then specifically with singles. And then the last faction who has people confirmed are Swag, who has both former singles champion Paul Oyama in this, but then also Liz Shannon Miller, who again lost in round 1 last year, but also lost to Ben Bateman, the person who ultimately won the gosh dang tournament. So that's not a bad loss to be looking at. So Colin, I want to know right off the bat, obviously this is only 8 out of 36 people. That's not a whole lot, but from these 8 people, is there anyone that like you were like specifically surprised to see going into this? And is there anyone that you're already thinking like, all right, they might be able to take it?
In terms of like, you know, just like dropping first names, you know, just like in terms of like dropping this first batch of people, Rachel. Yeah, I'm super excited to see Rachel included in this. Just a powerhouse. I think she brings this this energy that you're in immediately. She comes on stage, it's a vibe. You're like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's Schmoedown immediately. Or just line them up, let her knock them down. And in terms of people who I'm just overall excited to see, I'm one of the biggest Yodi Riley fans on the entire planet. I'm an old Schmo's head. Give me an old Schmo in the Schmoedown ring, and Colin is a happy boy. And seeing Yodi come out in that Superman jacket, whatever, I'm in. That's it. Move on. We're
Absolutely.
good here.
Yeah, man, it'll be nice to see him back. It'll be interesting to see, you know, who he winds up getting put up against and how he's able to make it work. And I definitely agree with you. Rachel is always like top tier, just energy. And then also, you know, again, she lost in round 1, I believe, to John Rocha, but took him to the ropes in that match. Like that was also not another one where it's like you go away thinking any less of Rachel. So again, that kind of actually the same as Mark. It'll be interesting to see who she's paired up against and then what kind of Rachel we're able to see come out of that. What about you, Bogz? Who are you looking at right now for this tournament as someone who either surprised you or could be the winner? Maybe if it's both even. I don't know.
I don't know about winner yet, a little bit early, but absolutely Rachel is definitely a one to look out for because she's got so much love for the Schmoedown in general, and she's earned people's respect in that Rocha match. The way she played, she pushed him all the way to the last question. So she played awesome, and she's obviously got a big match coming up for the Pride as well. So yeah, all eyes on her. Exactly the same thoughts about Mark Yodi Riley. I mean, first champion, winning it back, being the first 2-time champion. He definitely is up there with some of the all-time greats. He obviously got an award named after him as well. So yeah, I've always got my eye out on Mark. Always wish him the best wins-wise. Also, Ayama. Obviously, he's I believe his last 2 singles matches he lost to Rocha and Bateman. So I am looking for him to kind of get some wins back, because that run that he came in, he just tore up the league to the singles title. So I'm looking for him to get back on track. And Bibiani as well. Bibiani is always, his such depth and knowledge, and I just like watching him stand and play. So yeah, I can't wait for him to come back. But yeah, so much to look forward to with all these, and obviously Perry, with so much kind of knowledge that she has in terms of hosting shows, how much work she does and things like that. So how much can she potentially bring to the game as well?
Absolutely, yeah. It's fun to be able to see Perry outside of Jurassic Park and new releases. Those two kind of more niche regions of the Schmoedown universe. So I'm excited to see her in singles, and I definitely agree with you on Bibiani. Like when I think of that guy, I think entertainment and endurance. So I think especially the tournament setup, I think really is going to be beneficial to him. One person that I'm also personally looking forward to seeing a little bit more, I said personally twice, don't know why, but Liz Shannon Miller. She was someone that had a lot of energy and hype kind of coming into this, and unfortunately we didn't get to see a whole lot of her last season. She took, she's at 3-2 as far as her record, which is not a bad record. But again, B, if you look at those 2 losses, it's to Ben Bateman, the person who wound up winning that tournament, and Paul Oyama, who wound up being the youngest singles belt holder. So she is definitely someone that knows her stuff, can hang with some really great competitors. And I'm really interested to see how she does in the tournament. So that's, those are the people that we have confirmed at the time of recording this. We'll see who else gets announced. And of course, we'll have all kinds of stuff to say when more and more names are announced. But let's get into the things that we know for sure are going to be happening, starting with Star Wars. On Monday, there's going to be, before any match, there's going to be a Twitch special talking about Star Wars and the division with Jen Sturger and Brad Gilmore, kind of breaking things down a little bit. It'll be interesting to get their insights. Obviously, the 3 of us, we're still very new to the game of Schmoedown commentary. These are 2 people who really know their stuff. So it's going to be fun to hear them. Definitely check that out on Twitch on Monday. And then Wednesday, we have it, gang. Ace Cabrera versus Andrew DiMolanta. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I can't call a winner. I got a quarter off camera that I'm tempted to just grab and flip just to see who I want to call. I honestly got no words. I'm rendered speechless by these 2. Colin, if you had to, who you picking?
Colin, are you okay? First of all,
look. I just had mad flashbacks to the Force Bros versus Council match.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling here. I'm feeling contention. I'm feeling angst. I'm feeling like every question is going to be a championship level question. I'm almost feeling like this whole finals format should be thrown out the window and it should be Iron Man format for this final match, because I think it's almost unfair for these 2 titans of the Star Wars division to have their first speed round be over whatever it was that Christian described on Wednesday. Because if we could probably talk about that for a second, the new format seems to be that, John, if you and I were competing and Bogz was the producer, if I was being asked the questions, John would be on a FaceTime call with Bogz while John was muted and couldn't hear me and my questions being asked. And then that's going to be flipped the other way just to make sure that they can't hear the questions, even though they can't steal the questions. So I'm just kind of, if there's no stealing in the speed round, I'm confused on why we're it was confusing all around. But we'll see how it works. I obviously, given the current circumstances, I wish we could be in person for this. But this being the circumstances that we're in, I'm excited for this. This is it. This is it. I mean, this is going to come down. I feel like this is going to come down to the speed round, and I almost hate that it's going to come down to the speed round. It's going to come down to some weird thing that that probably has nothing to do with either of their Star Wars knowledge. So that's my take.
It's going to be another M versus N. It's
Yes.
going to be just absolute nonsense.
What did Devon say? He said, "Look, Christian, my mouth closes when I say M."
Oh man, Bogz, I think I know where your mind might be at with this.
Wow.
Just because you have been pretty ride or die, but it's gonna be close, right? If you had to say, do you think Ace can swing it, or do you think Dimalanta's gonna take it?
Before I get into that, I do want to address something. That, you know, obviously at the Outlaw Nation, we're all about inclusivity and diversity and stuff. So I thought I have to mention it because, you know, I'm not sure other people spot these things that, you know, leading into the semi-final, we do have 2 women and 2 people of color, 2 ethnic minorities. And for the guys that are in the final, obviously just seeing their names alone, Andrew Dimalanta, obviously of Asian descent, I believe Filipino descent, and Ace Carrera, a Mexican of Mexican descent, playing against each other in the final. We've never had that. How many kids must be watching? How many other people, you know, other minorities watching this, seeing these guys compete, smash it all the way up until the final? These guys both being written off, being underdogs throughout the tournament. You know, Ace coming from obviously the whole Iacovetta situation. Even before that, to be honest with you, at Jedi Council, I remember the days where, you know, he was getting all kinds of, you know, kind of criticism and them kind of things, which he's addressed. It's all available on YouTube. He's addressed that. It's not something I'm just making up. So from Jedi Council, from Iacovetta, and from all these tournaments, they've come all the way back. And you know, even just seeing a thumbnail of just 2 ethnic minorities in a final of a tournament, like, I've not seen a thumbnail of too many people of color in playing against each other in this run out in general. Only real times I've really ever seen that is, I think, Rocha played against Guy, and I think obviously Rocha against Oyama, obviously Oyama being of Asian descent. They're the only ones I think I've ever seen where 2 people of, you know, color, 2 ethnic minorities have played against each other. So absolute delight to see the inclusivity, and it shows that if you do include the minorities, you know, they can win things. You know, if they aren't included, you know, you can, if bring everyone to the table. Look how basically it shows that just this Star Wars tournament alone shows that obviously Star Wars is for everyone, and of course Ace has obviously a black manager as well. So you've got a black manager, you've got an Asian player and a Mexican player, all for this tournament. So just basically, yeah, I just wanted to say that shout out to all the inclusivity and shout out to the players, kind of breaking new grounds in the tournament. You know, and even the calls afterwards, after the Twitch stream, you're getting women calling, you're getting elderly people, you're getting kids calling, you're getting ethnic minorities calling, all, you know, kind of having that relatability and basically being proud of the competitors. And yeah, so that was completely new grounds that I've never seen before. So I just wanted to give a shout out for that before I give my prediction. So my prediction is basically, so in my eyes, Ace has already won in terms of what he's had to prove. So in terms of going unbeaten, in terms of winning, in terms of getting all the way to the final. So that's his kind of journey. The way I see is Dimalanta is that he needs this. He needs it so much. I believe I've said it in the first episode. It comes down to who wants it more. Obviously, they both want it so much. Ace is looking to not miss, but I do think Dimalanta wants this maybe an extra 5% or so, just that extra level. However, we've seen Ace now get all stuff thrown at him in this obviously semi-final, and he's stayed completely composed throughout. He's shown that, you know, he can still stay relaxed, still maybe not kind of how do you say, just basically stay composed throughout. Dimalanta, we haven't really seen go through that. Obviously, we've had that round 2 situation with him, but overall, it's gonna go. It's really 50-50, but if I can give 51%, I am gonna go with Dimalanta just on the pure. I think he needs it, maybe that 1% more. But I'm so happy anyone that wins. But yeah, it's a pleasure to watch, and I can't wait. I'll be staying up to watch it, no doubt.
Absolutely. If these lead-in matches have been any indication, this could truly be one of the best matches we've had in Schmoedown history, just generally across any division. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Then real quick, just touch on the Inner Geekdom bracket. We do know what these quarterfinal matches are going to be. We don't know for sure what we're going to be getting this week, but we might be getting the Barbarian versus John Humphrey on one side, and then Brandon Hanna versus Alex Damon on the other side of the bracket. Two pretty different matches, I would argue, as far as the personalities going into it and the energy I think we can expect between one and the other. Bogz, between those four competitors, are there two that you think are going to be coming out on top?
I'm interested in John Humphrey. Let's see what he's bringing to the table. Obviously, tough match against Barbarian, but yeah, let's see how. I am backing Barbarian in that match, to be honest with you, but let's see how far Humphrey can push the Barbarian, like obviously Alba done with Kalinowski. It's a kind of mirror game, so I'm happy to see that. And Alex Damon and Hannah, what a match. I mean, if that, obviously not had an announcement yet on that, but if that is the next match, it's 50-50 toss them. But yeah, so for that one, I would probably, if I'm pushed, I'll probably go with Hannah, because of his overall kind of Inner Geekdom experience. So yeah, I'll probably go with him there, but again, that's a 50-50. So what are your thoughts, John?
Yeah, my thoughts are, I love John Humphrey. I want to see more of him. And I don't know what his odds are against Barbarian necessarily, but John Humphrey has pulled, bigger upsets, if you ask me. So I'd love to see another Humphrey upset against Barbarian. So I'm going to be rooting for Humphrey. Brandon Hanna versus Alex Damon. I got to wonder how much Alex Damon's attention is now going to be shifting over to Star Wars. Now that, he's really coming down to the wire about maybe having to try and do double duty on that. So I kind of wonder if that will be the tipping point, like you were saying, giving Hanna that just like 51 to 49%. But yeah, that one's going to be pretty close. And also, I'm sure, very intense. And I bet, we might be two of the only people giving Brandon Hanna that much credit as well. Let's be honest. Colin, what are you thinking?
Yeah, you're right. No credit over here for Brandon Hanna.
I knew it.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to see John Humphrey, just possibly give the Quirky Mercs another dude in the arsenal. I'm just excited to see. We keep saying we love Coy. I just want to see Coy do well. So to see Humphreys, come out and get a win is a win for Coy. So a win for Coy is a win for the world. And to see Alex Damon come out and flex would be huge for the Rockstars. So now you're looking at him being the only opportunity for the Rockstars left in this year for points. And up until that, up until the eventual Star Wars, championship match. So, I mean, if I was Roxy, I would be, practicing with Damon every night. This is my guy. This is my Seabiscuit. This is my, my, what was that? The last my Triple Crown winner. This is my guy. This is, this is it. And yes, this is the Last Jedi, and he is standing out in front of this whole Schmoedown world, ready to face anything. And it's just gonna be interesting to see, can Damon withstand, just Brandon Hanna, because that's a different kind of energy than I think Damon's had to withstand before. So it's going to be interesting because that's more of a classic Schmoedown energy than Damon's had to withstand before. He's got the Star Wars matches kind of have a different vibe. This Inner Geekdom match with Hanna kind of reminds me of a Schmoedown match of old, where we're going to have to see Damon reach into a bag of tricks, and maybe it's going to take more than just answering questions correctly to get out of this one alive.
Yeah, totally fair. Those are our thoughts on those matches, but if you guys at home have some thoughts on those matches, I misspoke earlier. The email address that you can send us, whatever thoughts you might have, whatever questions you want to hear us tackle a little bit more in depth, you can email us at tusspod@gmail.com. Make sure you add that pod in there after the TUSS. That's important. But if you also want to check us out everywhere else, first off, why wouldn't you? We're great. Listen to us. We know all kinds of stuff. But you can follow us on Twitter at TUSSPod. You can check out new episodes every Saturday on Facebook, YouTube, and in podcast form on Anchor. Be sure to like the Facebook page, Be sure to check out the podcast at anchor.fm/TUSSpod. And then check out the Ultimate Schmoedown Show on YouTube. We have our own channel, and it's a gosh danged delight. I have been your host for the week, John Barr. You can find me at John Barr Tweets on Twitter and Instagram. Bogz, what you got to plug, man?
Just the Twitter at Bogz and Instagram at ABBogz. But yeah, most important thing, please watch the video, like, share, comment, give us feedback, email in. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the views that we've had recently, and let's keep it up.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's find out whether Brandon Hanna is a good or bad player once and for all. And we're only going to decide that with you guys, right? Because technically we got the majority. Colin, I know you hate to hear it, but I love hearing from you, buddy. What do you got to plug? Huh?
Well, if you made it this far, you're probably my mom. So, Mom, thank you for making it this far. Love you. And it just Schmoedown World, follow me, _C Morris on all the social media platforms, probably right down below me here. Nothing else to plug. I'm happy, just happy, just happy out here, guys. Just be happy. Just watch some Schmoedown, watch some movies that you love this weekend, celebrating. And I'm just happy to meet up with my guys every Friday now. I look forward to this. This is great. I'm just happy to be here.
Likewise, man. Likewise. I wish I could get my mom to watch anything I do. I'm kidding. I'm sorry, Mom. You might watch this. I don't know. Sorry. I love you. Don't listen to me. Don't watch anything I do. I don't deserve it now. Thank you so much for watching. We will catch you guys next week on the Ultimate Schmoedown Show. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.